Hi, it's now turned 6 o'clock and it's Monday, the 9th of February, 2026, and there's no one with me in this meeting. So I'm going to cancel the regular subject and talk about a couple of other things, I guess. I don't really have anything in my mind. At the moment, I've been writing a email to send to Brisbane Evangelism to try and get them to allow me to join their group. Really strange thing. They are a Facebook group with about 1,500, 1,600 members, and they're growing by, I don't know, maybe about 10 members a week. I requested to become a member about three, four, maybe a month ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago at least, and I never got a response from them. So I assume that's a no. So I'm writing an email to them to ask if they A would reconsider and B if they would tell me why. After all, you know what kind of person I am. If you've been watching my videos, you know my attitude to God. If you've been watching my older videos where I've been out and interviewing people on the streets about what they believe in God, etc., and gaining an insight to evangelism. I wasn't really evangelizing, though uh, I was when those interviews finished. Taking opportunities when they arose to talk with a person further. There were a couple of people that I spoke with beyond what was on camera. And one of them refused to even be on camera at all. So it was just a person that came up and said, "Look, can I talk with you?" And I don't want to be interviewed. It's like, "Oh, okay, sure. No, I won't turn my camera on," and it became a conversation about getting God in your life, etc. So the basis of evangelism, but it wasn't really evangelism. And I just realized here I am talking about evangelism yet again. I'll be getting off the subject. And though, let's just deal with this one circumstance, this one instance. So it worries me when a group that is evangelists, A, it's a closed group, you can't find out what they talk about or anything like that. It's a secret society. And B, they've got a three response question entry form, as it were. If you don't fill in the entry form, you just are not accepted. If they don't like your answers, and it's not an ABC answer type question, it's a matter of fill out a paragraph of answer this, and they give you, a paragraph space to give a detailed answer. I am a Christian with an evangelical mindset. I have a problem with getting out to evangelize because Jesus never sent them out as in ones. Jesus sent them out in pairs, and I need someone to go with for multiple reasons. Because if I get stuck in what I'm saying, I can have somebody take over and say that for me. If I say something that might be a reference to something in the Bible and just can't think of it, they can look up a verse in the Bible while I'm talking. If they're talking, for example, and they suddenly don't know what to say, I can jump in and start talking. Or if I'm talking too much, they can maybe tap me on the shoulder or something like that and indicate in some way that, hey, let the other person talk. As well as that, if I don't feel like going out on a particular day, if it's pouring rain, I'm not going to go out. There's nothing that's going to drag me out because basically there's going to be no one out there anyway, and why get soaked for nothing? But if I just feel like, oh, I just don't feel like going out today, and there's somebody I've been going out with, and they come around and say, right, let's go. It's like, oh, I don't really feel like going out. They can encourage me to go out. We can encourage each other. We can spur each other on. The most important thing is Jesus sent them out in twos. He sent the 12 out in twos. He sent out another group, being 72 disciples that he sent out in twos. And even from Acts onwards, we find Paul going with Barnabas, etc. Paul going with Timothy. They were always going in twos. So I need someone to work with. And the church that I've been going to, there was somebody that contemplated working with me, but their attitude to evangelism is opposed, in a sense, to my attitude to evangelism. I am out there reaching the atheists, the agnostics, and the skeptics, people that either believe there is no God or they just don't know. And he is basing everything on whether a person has sinned or not, and the Ten Commandments, and how that makes them guilty before God, and how they need Jesus in their life to deal with that guilt. Well, if you don't believe in God, heaven, and hell in the first case, then it's useless. So therefore, I'm out there dealing with the atheists and the skeptics, and he's out there dealing with the fallen away Christians and the Jews and anyone else that already believes in God. Two different focuses. We can't really work together because we do not have the same approach. And he won't work with someone that doesn't have the same approach. I would, because I see it as complementary, where I can approach an atheist, he can approach a fallen away Christian. Great, not a problem. It's like, um, do you believe in God? And they say yes. It's like, great, talk to him. Do you believe in God? No. It's like, oh, fine, talk to me. Anyway, this group has not got back to me to say anything about whether, what they thought or anything like that. They just wouldn't contact me. And I find that a disturbing thing, that churches, and if you watch my messages, there was a time where I constantly tried to contact some pastors in some churches and phoned them up multiple days over a week, and different times of different days, and never get an answer on the church phone. And I'd leave messages on the church's answering machine and never got a call back. Disturbing that a church that doesn't even know why you're calling won't even contact you back. But so therefore, I hadn't any great expectation from these people, because they're not even a church, they're a group of evangelists. And evangelists are even less in the we need to follow you up mentality that churches have. And that's putting it softly. So it disturbs me, the lack of care, the lack of follow-up that churches have. And the bigger the church, the bigger the problem. If you're in a church of a dozen people, the moment you walk in, everybody knows you're a brand new person because there's so few people. If you're in a church of 2,000 people, you might walk in 10 times and still not one person has spoken to you, because they don't know if it's your regular church. They've never met you, this, that, and the other. They might not really feel comfortable talking to new people, or, so on. I've been to a lot of really big churches and never had a person in a big church approach me to say hello, etc., unless it was at the beginning of the service and the pastor on stage said, "Welcome the person next to you." And that's pretty much the only occasion when a big church actually does something like that. And that's disturbing, because I think they get to a level where it's a overflow point, where their church bucket can't hold anymore, and it's not the number of seats. It's just the number of people being so big that when new people come in, they don't feel welcome. So they don't hang around. So it's really difficult for a large church to grow. I've got some answers for that. What if we have people, A, regularly sit in regular sections, especially the real regulars, the real people that are really behind the church, etc., and certain ushers, etc., or people like that sit in certain sections and they look for people that they've never seen before in that section. And they go and say, "Is it your first time here? I'd like to welcome you. I'd like to introduce you to a few people." And because that section has a regular group of people sitting in it, then it's a matter of, well, there's Joe over there, and hey, Joe, meet this person, and here's Christine, meet this person. And it's a small group of people within a big church. It's like having a church of 50 people within a church of 2,000 people, because that's a section of 5 rows of 10 seats. And because people are tending to sit in the same places, and especially the ushers, they'll know and can communicate and welcome people even more. That church of 2,000 will grow to a church of 3,000 in no time, rather than be at that overflow point that people just don't hang around because they're not being welcomed. Anyway, that's point one. The systems to welcome people. Point two, when that stranger walks away, nobody knows. Nobody knows they even visited. That person could go to a church for a year and still basically maybe have met 2 or 3 people in a year. And if that person after a year leaves, nobody knows. This is how in depth I know this situation on the leaving side of things. I used to be a senior usher in a church of around about 1,000 people. I knew all the regulars and lots of people that had only gone there for a short period of time and whatever else. All the pastors knew me very well because of the role I had, and I would do other things in other roles there as well, but that's irrelevant. What's relevant is when I stopped going to that church, out of 1,000 people, 0, not one person contacted me to find out why I wasn't going anymore or anything like that. Do our churches get so big that we get out of the habit of follow-up? And not just of new people, of old people. So we've got to consider follow-up for people that have not been around for a while. And how do we know if they've not been around for a while? Well, if they've been regularly sitting in seats in a 2,000-seat auditorium, but sitting in the same section, that usher will notice they haven't been coming. A month goes by and they still haven't seen them after a month. It's a matter of, right, we'll phone these people up and see what's happened. Hi, we feel for you. We're missing you. We're wondering if there was anything we might be able to do for you, and wondering why you might not have been coming lately. Follow up. I don't know if they're the best questions, but follow up. That's the important thing. It's missing. The bigger the church, the less there is. So, small churches, lots of communication, lots of follow up, etc., and lots of feeling of warmth of new people because They're getting welcomed by all 12 people that are in that church. Small church, lots of communication with everyone. Big church, none. So a big church can break out of that problem and become a massive church if they just learn some skills of connecting with people. Anyway, let's get on to something that I was thinking of talking about. The strong, the weak, and the cowards. I did a message on this, I don't know, maybe yesterday or the day before. And it's made me think about this evangelist group. And it's made me think that these are, in one sense, the strong people going out and telling people about God. But they won't follow me up. They're weak in that regard. Are they afraid to follow me up? Are they actually cowards in the guise of strength? Because if there's no direct communication, you're just preaching at a mob walking past down that mall, then it's not personal. You're communicating, but not in a personal way. It's like me talking to you right now. I'm communicating to you, but you're not talking back. You can't talk back. So this kind of communication becomes very different if you're actually in the room with me, because you could respond to the things that I'm saying. And evangelists often have more of a preach mentality, though they also communicate directly with people. People will walk up and start talking with them, etc. But that communication is still on a level of almost preaching. I'm going to tell you about Jesus. I'm not going to be convinced about your argument that whatever your argument is that's saying that either Jesus wasn't real or Buddha's just as good or whatever your argument is. I'm not going to be convinced of that. I'm here. I'm the boss in this communication, and they have that kind of mentality. Not all of them, but because of the nature of evangelism, it is easy to gain that kind of mentality. And I know because I've been rather evangelical in the past myself. If you've watched my videos, you know my history. Let's just go back to my early days, my teens, my 20s. I would be out on the streets telling people about God most nights of the week. After having gone to a Bible study or a prayer meeting or whatever, I would be going to some kind of church type meeting every day of the week and 3 on Sunday. And after those meetings, I would be out telling people about God. But I too was the one-way mentality. Even if a communication started and I'm not preaching at the mob, and I was never really a preach at the mob type person. I was always a walk up and, hey, how you doing today type person. Um, but still with the attitude of, I've got something to share with you. And whatever you're going to share with me, I'm going to have a little barrier there in between me and you that it doesn't affect me because you don't want their sin to affect you, etc. And even their negativity of God or whatever it might be, you've got that barrier up. You have to have it as an evangelist. But do you have to carry it as an evangelist when you walk into church and you're not acting as an evangelist. Maybe we've still got that barrier up. Maybe we've still got this mentality behind us that, A, I'm either going to preach or and not get in direct communication with people, which again I don't like. Or B, if I get in direct communication with people, I've been an evangelist for years, so I know what I'm talking about, and I can quote scriptures like this, and therefore I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to be the teacher in your life. Not me personally, but that's the attitude that comes across. Why? Because even when they walk into church and they're talking with a Christian, it's still that barrier. The I'm an experienced Christian and I'm just going to assume that you're a new Christian. I'm just going to assume that I know more than you. Evangelists can do that. So it's difficult to get across to an evangelist a lot of the time. And I'm finding that barrier. It's a barrier that I think can even make it difficult for an evangelist to learn. There's a person that I've been talking about lately, two people, one that I've been in direct communication with, and his teacher. And when I say his teacher, I'm talking about somebody from another country who is a well-known evangelist who teaches on how to evangelize. And he teaches that you should use his method. And it's a do this, do this, do this, and then do this type method. Let's hit it. It's a ask if a person is good. And if they say they're good, say, well, have you sinned? Have you lied? Have you hurt another person? Have you whatever? 10 Commandments, go over them. And when they say, yes, I've lied, it's like, well, the Bible says that that means you're going to hell unless you get Jesus in your life, which is the next step. And the next step is, right, so you need to pray for Jesus to come into your life and give your life to God. So that's it, Are you good? You've sinned. Jesus overcomes that. Pray. And he follows that man's methods. And as far as he's concerned, that is the only way to go. And I've forgotten why I've even started talking about these people. Yes, I remember. Okay, so as far as he's concerned, that's the way to go. Now, from what I've been learning on Charis, salvation is very, very, very different. It's not a heaven hell thing. It's well, it is, but it's a change from sin to godliness through what God does in your life. I was going to say something shocking but nice there, and I thought, no, I'll hold myself off. I want to keep that for another message one time because I might have mentioned it before, but I want to mention that again as a wow factor. So I won't mention it here. God, through Charis, turns you from sin to Christ, turning you to godliness, to become a person who exercises the Christian virtues, which are the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, uh, uh, goodness, gentleness, self-control, and I've missed one. So we are gaining good things in our life. And Christianity is all about gaining those good things in our life. And if there was no heaven or hell, Christianity would still be about gaining the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. and faithfulness. Got them all that time out of order. So, more than being about heaven and hell, it's about gaining those good things, walking away from sin and becoming the good. Yet, this person's leader says, well, if you preach that message, you're setting up people to be false Christians, and it's a false gospel because they might not receive goodness in their life. Well, if they haven't received those things, if they haven't moved from sinfulness to those good things, then they haven't become a Christian. So his teacher, A, doesn't know what he's talking about, and B, he himself, when he keeps going back to his teacher and says, no, but no, you can't be right because my teacher says this. He doesn't say my teacher. It's like, because this is the way. He has the evangelist barrier up. I know more than you because I'm the evangelist. But you don't know Charis. Because if you know Charis, you know the whole walk of God is how God turns you. Let's quote Thayer again. The merciful kindness by which God, exerting his holy influence upon souls, turns them to Christ, keeps, strengthens, increases them in Christian faith, knowledge, affection, and kindles them to the exercise of the Christian virtues. In other words, going from sin to godliness, to love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, all those good things coming out in a person's life, that is what charis is. And what's charis? It's the word translated into grace. For by grace you are saved through faith, and that is not yourselves, it is the gift of God. So that crux of Scripture, crucial Scripture, telling us what salvation is. For by grace, for by charis, you are saved, and that is not of yourselves. For by charis you are saved through faith, and that is not of yourselves, it is the gift of God. And we know that charis, and in Strong's Concordance, it'll say, especially the divine influence upon the heart and its reflection in the life, or on the life, in the life, is what Strong said about charis, about grace. Especially, so the most important part is the divine influence upon the heart, God changing your heart, and its reflection in the life, how it can then be seen in your life. So it's still what I've been saying, turning from sin to godliness and all the good things of godliness, the gifts of the Spirit, good things. Exactly the opposite of what this person tells me his teacher says. And I've checked out his teacher, and yes, his teacher says, avoid the goodness message because that'll make false Christians and you're preaching a false gospel by doing it. I'm sorry. That's actually what the gospel is. To turn from sin to the good things God gives you. Is love not good? Is joy not good? Is peace not good? Is patience not good? Is kindness not good? Is goodness not good? Is faithfulness not good? Is gentleness not good? Is self-control not good? The good things of life come from getting God in your life, and God then moves you from sinfulness to those good things. Now, having those good things in your life doesn't mean that the environment around you has changed. You might have hated beforehand, and all the people around you hated you as well. But when you get God in your life and you start to learn love and become more loving, that spreads out from you, and the people around you may be affected by you and become a little more loving. But The promise is not that they will change and suddenly make your life wonderful. No, it's that God will change you by putting those good things in you, not in your environment. Anyway, time's up. I hope you got something from this. Please, as always, if you thought it was a good message, say so, post it to others, and give me a rating out of 10. Not me personally, but the message. Was it a good message? Well, give it a 6 or a 7. Was it a poor message? Give it a 3 or a 4 or something. Whatever you thought. Rate it. Let's start rating these messages. Anyway, govern well in chorus.